You're listening to the All Day Ruckoff podcast, episode number 56. Welcome to the All Day Ruckoff podcast, episode number 56. This is your host, Brian, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. The All Day Ruckoff podcast features interviews, answers questions, and provides updates on the rucking community. I'm very excited about this episode. It is another one about the GORUCK Star Course. This time, I interview Joe and Amelia, who recently completed the Star Course in Chicago. They were actually the second place team, and they've got a really cool story. Joe and Amelia are married. They were on a two-person team together, and they did the entire event with their dog, which is beyond impressive. I talked with them a little bit before the episode and a little bit after the episode, and it never got mentioned during the episode. So I just wanted to clarify that if you listen to this and you get really excited about doing the Star Course with your dog, please make sure your dog is able to do the event. Joe and Amelia have taken their dog on a lot of really long rucks, and so they knew that their dog could handle it. However, that being said, if you're planning on doing this with your dog, just make sure that it's a good idea. Before we get going into the episode, as always, I would love to give some thanks to those who have left reviews on both our Facebook page and on our Apple Podcast page, which is within iTunes. This week, we've got 5-star reviews with no comments from Michael and Jeremiah. Thank you so much for leaving those. And we've got a 5-star review from Greg, who says, just discovered the podcast on Castbox app. I've been in the rucking community in Houston since 2012. Thank you for the wide scope of topics covered. I love our community, especially my Houston family. Through GORUCK, I have met up with GRTs in Australia while there for work. Keep up the great work and cheers. Thank you, Greg, for both taking the time to leave that. I really do appreciate it. And for being such an awesome member of the community. It's really fun to meet up with fellow GRT when you're traveling or when you're in a new state. And it's really cool that you're able to do that going as far as Australia. We have a lot of really good ruck clubs down in Texas. And I'm so glad that you're tied into such a good community. Thank you so much again for taking the time to leave that. If you missed out on last week's episode, just an announcement that Christmas in July that GORUCK runs every year is still going on. Last week they had gear on sale. I think they still have some of that on sale right now. This week they're doing a huge events sale. So if you're thinking about signing up for an upcoming event, you might want to check that first. They also released a lot of new events in the coming months, including a special Battle of the Bulge series, which is in January. So check their map and see if there's an event headed your way. If you're going to be purchasing something from GORUCK, you can always use the links acrt.us/GORUCK, which is an affiliate link. It's no extra cost to you, but it will kick back a little bit of the sale to us to help improve the podcast. So it's very appreciated if you use that. And if you don't, that's totally fine too. The important part is you're getting out and pushing yourself and signing up for awesome events. Updates on the All Day Ruckoff store. If you haven't been there recently, we now carry pace lids from Cadre Chris Way. So we've got those in all 4 colors available now. If you want to support the podcast, you can always buy something from the online store at alldayruckoff.com/store, or you can leave a review on iTunes or our Facebook page. Those are all truly appreciated, and they do an amazing job of promoting the podcast. Good luck to everyone who has an event this coming weekend, and here's the interview with Amelia and Joe. Was this 50 miler your first experience with GORUCK, or have you done other GORUCK events before this?
So we started, Joe heard about GORUCK last September. It was like the beginning of September. He heard about it on his Art of Manliness podcast.
Yeah, there was an episode, I think, I forget if it was Jason talking or something, but there was one on Art of Manliness, and I heard about it or listened to it while I was at work, and I thought it was a pretty cool idea. We had just gotten a dog within the past couple of months recently, and we're going on daily walks, so I was like, why not throw on a bag of bricks and go for a walk anyway, that I'm already going to be on. And there happened to be a event in October in Chicago, so I came home and, said, this sounds kind of cool. Let's sign up for it and see what it's all about. And so we did that first one. It was the zombie event in Chicago in October. And
the light.
We did the light, and we loved it and have been doing it ever since. I think we've done, 4 or 5 events this year already now. So we've done tough. I did a heavy actually 2 weeks before, but we've done a couple toughs, a couple lights. And then I did the D-Day heavy and then the Star Course. So we've done a couple events at that point, but still are pretty new to the community in general.
We just did a tough on Friday in Milwaukee.
Yes, and that was only a week after, or is it 2 weeks after the Chicago 50?
It was 2 weeks. Joe's actually had a pretty busy GORUCK month. He did the D-Day on June 2nd. Later we did the 50-miler Star Course in Chicago. And then, we just did the tough 2 weeks after that. So I didn't do the heavy. I'm thinking about doing my first heavy next month, but we'll see.
That's awesome. So,
yeah.
Joe, you heard about GORUCK on the Art of Manliness podcast, and you came home and told Amelia that it sounded like something that would be fun to do. What were you thinking, Amelia, when he brought that up?
Okay, so I watched the video, and he might have sent me the link to the light page or something, and I was like, holy, maybe we should start with the light, because I didn't know what he wanted. He didn't really say which one he wanted to start with. We both come back from pretty unhealthy backgrounds growing up. We were both overweight, and until 2012, I was over 200 pounds. So we both started getting into nutrition and health over the past few years, and so I was like, why not? I didn't really know what to expect. Actually, we had Cadre Jacob, and he told us to dress up for the event. So I showed up in an 80s, a leotard, 80s workout outfit for my first event. And I think it was in the 50s, so it was pretty cold. But it was a pretty fun event, even not really prepared. We had the worst rucksacks ever for the first event. We bought cheap ones off of Amazon and tied a bunch of bricks together with duct tape. So we weren't really prepared, but since then we definitely found out what GORUCK is all about.
Yeah, I could want to chime in too. I don't think either of us were really prepared. It was something like you said. We just kind of got some cheap gear and went out there, and it was kind of, I would almost say the official start of our training to try and push ourselves and our boundaries physically. We had gotten in better shape nutritionally and, just walking a little bit, but weren't really doing any extreme type workouts or anything like that. So with less than a month or about a month of training before the event, it was definitely a little bit of a shock to both of us that first event, just seeing some of the stuff that they do, carrying the sandbags around or doing all the different PT type stuff. We did Ranger push-ups in our first event, and neither of us had really done anything like that in our lives. So it was kind of a little bit of a shock, but it was fun to see the people coming together, and, you come from all different places and stuff like that, being able to work together as a team and push your boundaries and what you think you're able to do. So it was definitely an interesting experience, but we loved it and kept coming back for more.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it, since you've done a number of them since that first event.
Yeah, no, it was funny. So, every Black Friday, everybody goes and gets their consumer electronics or stuff like that. Our last Black Friday, we spent all our money on GORUCK stuff. We got a bunch of gear and stuff to get ourselves squared away. And then we actually planned out our whole year worth of events. I think it was the Cyber Monday sale they had or whatever with the 50% off events. So we booked everything for the year with the exception of the Star Course. So yeah, we went all in when we had the chance.
That's awesome. And there really isn't a better time to do it than during those good sales.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would highly recommend to anybody who's interested in their stuff, try and wait for some of those and really, save your money and put it to use then, just because you get the deeper discounts and stuff like that instead of trying to buy it, because as we all know, the GORUCK gear is all pretty expensive, but it's definitely worth it. There's a huge quality difference in the rucksacks and stuff like that versus just going and buying another bag. So it's worth it to save the money and wait for the deal instead of just going and trying to buy something else.
And then the Scars, like their picture gear is awesome. We really love it. It's like it's like my favorite company now. American company.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I've sent my stuff to Scars a couple times, and they always sew it up nice and send it back. It's worked out really well. And just to piggyback off the waiting for the deals and stuff, I mean, every time I wait and there's an event sale, I find myself spending the same amount of money, but I just get double the events.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
It seems like a huge win to me.
Yeah,
and especially with how they let you transfer the dates or whatever, because we had actually we're planning on moving, and that didn't go through. So some of the events we had in a place that we didn't end up being, and we were able to transfer them no problem. You're just able to email them, say, hey, I actually want to do this event instead, and no problems whatsoever. They transfer it over. So you have that flexibility too. It's nothing that you have to 100% commit to, but you lock yourself in at that price point for the event, and then from there, if you have to make any changes. So that flexibility is nice as well. To you plan ahead and try and do multiple events. If something comes up, you can still change it. So that kind of makes it worthwhile as well.
Yeah, and it just gives you a good feeling. I've had to do the same thing. I've got 2 kids, and their schedules are always up in the air, and so something's come up, and I always feel really good inside when they square you away, transfer your event for you, and it's just an overall a really pleasant experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's also part of the fun of GORUCK is they're such a great company. It's good people just trying to do the right things and stand by the products they make and the events they offer, and they strongly believe in it, and they're trying to help you out as much as they can. And I think that's cool to be able to be part of to spend money on a company towards that instead of somebody who's just looking for worried about the bottom line. So it's definitely nice to, spend your money on a good company instead of somebody else.
Absolutely. And just bringing it full circle, we talked briefly about the people who show up for the events. And I mean, it's all people who seem like they want to support and just, a company that's trying to do their best. And they're people who just want to do their best and be a better version of themselves. So showing up to these events is so fun because you get to meet so many people who have a very similar mindset.
Oh yeah, you meet the best people during the events, that's for sure. It's quite a diverse group of people coming from different backgrounds, whether it's ex-military, first responders, law enforcement, or even people who don't do any of that. Amelia and I, we don't come from any of those backgrounds or anything like that, but we just like to work hard and kind of push our boundaries and help ourselves and other people. And, we fit in just as well as some of the people who have those military backgrounds or whatnot. And you meet so many people who just believe in something bigger than themselves and are out there to work hard, especially that shared suffering that you go through in the events. I mean, you can't fake that, when you're out there. Some of the events been out there for a long time, doing a lot of hard work to where you're not feeling it and are hurting, and somebody's right there ready and willing to pick you up. And I think that's awesome. It's hard to come across people like that in day-to-day life sometimes, and just to be in a place where people come together, choose to spend their time and money on that suffering. That's I know for myself at least, that's one of the biggest things I get from people is like, when I tell them about GORUCK, they're like, you pay to do that? And it just always kind of strikes me as funny, just because I'm spending money to go walk around, work out, and carry a bag of bricks and, kind of put myself in a uncomfortable situation, but the benefits and what you gain from it by just pushing yourself, and also the people you learn in the community you become a part of, that's well worth the money for me.
And that's why I like it. I like the teamwork and part of it. I've done a few races, like 5Ks and stuff, and I just love I love how the GORUCK, it's not just about you being alone and doing it yourself and racing people. It's about you coming together as a team and helping each other out. That's what I love about it in particular. And also what he said about the spending money, how people are like, oh, you spend money on that? And I question the people that spend money on marathons and triathlons and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, at least I'm getting some teamwork and other stuff out of it instead of just my solo quest. I mean, I still appreciate the people that do stuff like that, but I don't know. I love the teamwork aspect of it.
I completely agree. 100%. I mean, I'm the same way. I've done 5Ks, 10Ks, and longer distances. I've done triathlon stuff, but I just keep coming back to the GORUCK events because I feel like I just get so much more out of it, and not just in the physical beatdown sense, but in the overall community and the shared suffering. Exactly what you said, Joe. I just feel like I just get a ton out of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's no doubt about that. That's for sure.
So you two planned out your schedule based off the Cyber Monday deal that GORUCK ran. And then later, obviously they came out with the 50 miler. They announced it in DC, and then they released, I think, 10 locations across the United States, with Chicago being one of them, actually the second location. How long did it take you to decide that you wanted to sign up for that 50 miler in Chicago?
So when I heard that they were doing the 50 miler in DC, I actually got really upset that I couldn't go to the 50 miler in DC. And when I was like, oh, I'm really upset it's in DC, like I'm not going to be able to make it. And I really, really wanted to do that event in particular. Just because you're just walking, I guess. It's less nerve-wracking than you don't know what to expect from like any toughs or heavies or anything, because you're going to show up and they're going to either beat you down or whatever. So when they announced that they were coming out with other cities, I think I did a little happy dance and I jumped around the room. Probably, yeah. And pretty much signed up right when they announced it, because I was very, very excited about it. Because that's what we do. We mostly just walk and ruck, especially with our dog. So that we can definitely do this. So it was like within the first few hours, I knew we were going to do it.
And you were right on board too, Joe?
Oh yeah, definitely. I enjoy the rucking around more than any part of it and stuff. So that was right up my alley. Yeah, I think like Amelia said, I mean, it was within the first couple of days of them announcing that we signed up. And I thought it was cool also because I think it was back in January when Jason sent out the email about his plans to do the 50 miles in 20 hours because of what JFK said and whatnot. And we had actually planned on doing it ourselves over the course of the year at some point. So then when they said that they were going to put out an event for that, it sounded to do it better with them and earn a patch for it than to just go on our own. So yeah, no, we were definitely on board with it 100%.
That's awesome. I as well did a happy dance of sorts when they announced that Seattle was going to be getting a location. I was nervous because we don't get too much out here in this corner of the United States. And so when I saw that on the list, I was thrilled that I did not have to travel to California or Colorado or something to get it done.
Oh, I could imagine that. That's got to be a little bit more difficult when there's not as many events in your area. Luckily, we're in Chicago, and we have a lot of stuff around, whether it's in Chicago or we've done a couple in Wisconsin. It's actually easier for us to get to the Wisconsin events than it is to Chicago because of all the traffic.
That's too funny. I can imagine. I've got a lot of family out in Wisconsin, and I've got one set of aunt and uncles out in Chicago. And so I would love to do a Wisconsin event sometime.
I've noticed that the people, not to be like rude to people in Chicago, but I've enjoyed the Wisconsin events almost more than the Chicago events because the people up there just seem like they're more on board for the hard work.
Yeah, they come out ready to play.
Not that there's some amazing people we've met in Chicago, like Glenn McDonald or the Agnes or Jay, but and Mark, if you know who Mark Paul Amari. There's some great people in Chicago, but the Madison people and the Milwaukee people have been awesome as a team.
That's good to hear. I would love to make it up there for one of the Cadre Rooney Snowdrop events. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, I've heard. We had him in Madison back in April for a light. That was a real fun event. I kind of want to sign up for the Snowdrop, but I don't know if we're going to be able to make it this year.
Yeah, no, the Snowdrop one would definitely be awesome. I mean, it's hard after every event. You're like, oh, that cadre was so awesome. So it's hard to say who's the best, but because they all offer something unique. But he definitely put on a real good event, and I've heard great things about that Snowdrop one. It would definitely be fun to do. Yeah,
I had him on the podcast to talk about Snowdrop roughly a month and a half, I think, before Snowdrop in 2017. And I had a serious case of missing out syndrome because he was selling it so well. And I was checking the flights right after the call, and it was like $500 or $600 or something round trip. And I was like, there's no way that can happen, but maybe next year.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that one. It's tough. It's part of Go. That's like the hard part about GORUCK is it's also like nobody will tell you up front, but it's a money pit. You'll find all your money goes there, whether it's towards gear or events or traveling, just all the different stuff that you end up doing through doing the GORUCK stuff.
Absolutely. But one of the really nice things for you two is that you get to do the events together. So it's not only are you doing the events, but it's got to be a nice couples bonding time.
Yeah, actually, it's a lot of fun for me to do it. I'm very thankful that Amelia was on board with it, just because it's cool to, when I'm out there having a hard time, it's cool to know that, my significant other is out there willing to work just as hard as I am. And it's fun. And especially the Star Course, that was a lot of fun doing that together because it's different than a normal event where you have the cadre leading the team and stuff like that, because we don't end up necessarily interacting all that much in the events, anything beyond teammates. But in the Star Course, it was us together just pushing through. So it was a lot of fun to be able to do that together, as a couple or as a family. So I definitely enjoy that she's into it and stuff. I think it makes it that much more fun for me that she comes out and is willing to do all the events.
And so when you were training up for the Star Course, did you change your training around at all to get ready for that 50 milers, or did you stay pretty consistent with what you had been doing?
So we both think that there's not really a good way to train for the Star Course.
Yeah, you don't train for 50 miles. We had actually we had done a couple 20 milers, and we're feeling pretty good, and we were kind of joking beforehand, like, oh, it's only 50 miles. We had done a couple 20 milers within probably like a month or two before. Like, we got this, no problem. And that was definitely not the case when we showed up and did the Star Course. So it's kind of hard. You can definitely train for it, do some extended rucks and stuff like that, but hitting that number of 50 is definitely different, at least in my opinion. I don't know if Amelia has any different ideas on it.
Unless you're doing like 50 miles every month or something, I don't think there's really a good way to train unless you just like continuously do that or plus it, because your feet are going to start hurting by end. I mean, I guess those guys that finished in 12 hours, they probably run a lot and do, like if you're an endurance athlete, it might be easier. But we're not endurance athletes, so yet. But I don't know. I don't think there's like a real good way to train if you haven't already been doing a lot of endurance events. It's just like getting out there and rucking.
Yeah, just get used to logging some longer mile rucks as best as you can. Get a couple 20, 30 milers under your belt just so you get used to it. We also, because of having our dog with us, we kind of made a game plan to log as many miles as we could overnight, just because it was supposed to be in the mid 90s, and she's a black dog, so she doesn't handle the heat the best. So we went out and our plan was to get after it right away. So I mean, we were just pounding the pavement, and that definitely takes a toll on your legs and your feet. Different than some of the other GORUCK events. I'd actually done a heavy 2 weeks before, and I was hurting way more after the Star Course than I was the heavy. And I think it's just that constant pounding of the pavement. It's hard to prepare for, when you're moving at a quick pace under the weight. So yeah, my best advice would be just try to log as many long rucks as you can, and just like any GORUCK event, be prepared mentally to push yourself beyond what you think you can do.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing a lot of, is that, get up to a 20-mile ruck just to make sure that the gear you're using is squared away for a decent distance, because if you're doing a 2-mile ruck or a 4-mile ruck, your feet can be fine, but your shoes can start getting after you 8 miles in, and you won't know until you do that. But if you can hit those longer 16, 18, 20 miles, and your shoes are still good and your foot care strategy is fine, then I feel like that's almost all you can do. After that, it's just prepare yourself mentally for a rough 20 hours.
Yeah, I think that's some good advice on the footwear as well. We're both in a small minority. We actually wear the 5 fingers, the toe shoes. So we've been wearing those for a while, and so we both were comfortable in that. But I would definitely say whatever footwear you're going to wear, be confident that it's good. I personally don't like to take my shoes off. Your feet hurt, and once you take them off, it's that much harder to put them back on, because your feet just kind of get, comfortable and swollen within your shoes. And once you take them off, I don't know. Me personally, I don't like to put them back on, so I try and just wait until the event's over. But I think that's some good advice, to know your footwear and what your game plan is for that, as far as whatever you want to do.
And Amelia, do you wear 5 fingers as well?
Oh yeah. And actually, I had not an injury, but my right foot was bothering me. I'd been running, and I actually got a new pair of 5 fingers right before the event. They came the Monday before, because my other pair kind of got a hole in them, and I had run on them, and I kind of inflamed my right foot. So I tried to wear those 5 fingers the whole week before to get them worn in, and I wore them to the event. Actually, my foot was bothering me from like the 2nd mile on, but it like would come and go, and I was just pushing through. And but yeah, I love the 5 fingers are my favorite. You definitely get a better grip on the ground, and I just feel like I can walk better in them, even with my foot bothering me.
That's awesome. I haven't worn 5 fingers, but I do have a pair of 0 drop running shoes that I like to use, and I've always considered trying 5 fingers out, but I honestly don't know why I haven't yet.
Yeah, I highly recommend them to anyone who does GORUCK, just because, I mean, if you've done, or anything active, just because, if you're already active and stuff like that, I really believe that it's a better way, to get your foot to work properly. I know that I can see like where my foot was deformed from wearing regular gym shoes for so long. At the end they constrict your toes and stuff like that. So I can see where my toes are actually squished in from wearing regular gym shoes. And your feet definitely get stronger from wearing them and stuff like that. So I think it's good to, if you're willing to try something different. They're not expensive either. We got a all of ours on Amazon for like $60 to $70 per pair. So they're not any more expensive than a regular shoe is, and it's just a much better experience in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll have to check them out. And without getting too far off the 50 miler talk, are the Five Fingers, are they something that you have to work up to a longer distance in? Just for the people who are listening and might want to buy these for a 50 miler, is this something that you should, work up and work into your routine on wearing and trying to use for a distance?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say yes. My experience is probably a little bit unique and not a good example for everybody else. When I started wearing them, I happened to be doing like 25 to 35,000 steps a day at work with the job I was doing. So I was used to walking a lot, and I put them on and kind of never stopped. So I was used to walking a lot every single day. But the Five Fingers, the company, they recommend working your way up to them and, putting them on. And if your feet hurt, switch back to normal shoes and just kind of work your way up. But I definitely wouldn't say buy a pair and go do 50 miles. Definitely be comfortable in them and know what you're doing and know that you can comfortably wear them and be confident in that.
Yeah, the zero drop running shoes I've got right now, it took me, I want to say, a month and a half to get up to running 5 or 6 miles. And I started out doing a quarter mile, and then I'd put my normal shoes on, and then I would do a half-mile run in them for a week and then switch. And then I think it was like a mile and then a mile and a half. I just kind of gradually increased because I found I was working way different muscles and running differently wearing them. And it definitely felt better. It just, if I knew I could feel that if I overdid it, my legs were just so sore.
Yeah, it's just like, in my opinion, it's like any other muscle, and like you're working new muscles in your feet that you've never worked wearing regular shoes before, and so just like any other muscle, that it hurts when you first start working it, and that's my opinion on it. That's also why we like to wear them. It's more like natural. You're working the muscles that you should be working regularly, like, because we're all born without shoes, and we're all supposed to, use all our muscles, but we don't with regular shoes. So actually, we both have a problem wearing regular shoes now. I just every time I put one on, I feel my foot sliding back and forth in it, and it actually bothers my feet more wearing regular gym shoes.
Yeah, don't tell the shoe companies that we were born not wearing shoes. They'd probably try and argue that.
Yeah, I know. Whatever.
Yeah, to each their own, but yeah, like you said, not to get too far off, but I think you said it best. Just kind of whatever's comfortable and work your way up to what you're doing.
Yeah, and the way I thought about it, it was just something new to try and explore. Just like signing up for my first GORUCK event, I didn't know what to expect. When I bought my first pair of zero drop shoes, I didn't know what to expect, but I figure, life's too short not to give it a shot and see if it's something. It works for a lot of people. It might work for me. Who knows?
Yeah, that's so true. That's very well said. I definitely agree with that. Always be open to trying new things. That's for sure. Don't write it off before you try it.
That's probably something good to say to, the triathlete friends and the runner friends who don't understand GORUCK. Don't knock it till you try it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So you mentioned that your dog's black, and obviously the heat and the sun, is probably not the best for it. So you wanted to get as many miles in overnight as you could. So that first stretch, you started, I think, at 6 p.m., head into the night, ruck until the sun comes up. How many miles did you get done before the sun came out in force?
So it started at 9 p.m. or our time. We were doing a little under 16 mile per hour pace by the time we got done with the first 9 miles. That's what Kadri and Nikki said, at least when we got there to the 9 mile point. I think we got around almost like 30 miles before the sun came out.
Yeah, it was around 30 because I remember we hit the second waypoint, which was the first waypoint was 9 miles, and then you backtracked 18 miles, and around there the sun was very slightly starting to come up. You could see some light in the sky, so it was probably around 30 miles we covered before the sun started to rise.
And it was like 38 miles before it was getting real hot. So we were in the last 12 miles, I would say it was the heat of the day, or not the heat of the day yet, but the sun and the humidity were definitely full force already.
Yeah, that was when the sun started to become, or the heat started to become a factor. It was probably around the last 12 miles of the rush.
And what was the weather like? I heard DC had, their horrible rain, and that was kind of a surprise. But I heard that there was potentially some shocking weather coming your way as well.
So when we started, it was a little hot and humid, but it was like 9 p.m. So we started off with a little bit of heat, but the sun wasn't out at that point, so it was fine. And then I would say around the 18-mile mark, we felt this like real strong wind come in, and that's when I knew we were going to get rain, because I was like, oh, there's a storm coming. Yeah, the forecast was calling for scattered thunderstorms or rainstorms overnight. But it was only like a 20% chance. So I think it was like a little bit past the 18, it was like probably 20 miles is when it started kind of raining. And then it was like another mile after that, we decided to put our raincoats on, and then it was just full force for probably like 2 to 3 hours. And we're like, yeah, right, scattered thunderstorms. This is more than just scattered thunderstorms. You saw the lightning a couple times over the lake. It was kind of cool, because we were like right along the lakeshore path for the first 36 miles.
Yeah.
And then it got real humid during the day and hot.
That's wild.
But the rain actually helped a lot to cool us off. We got pretty cold when the rain hit.
Yeah, it was definitely perfect weather for a GORUCK event. Did not disappoint.
Yeah, I'm sensing a trend here.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with California, but they should probably prepare themselves for some unexpected weather, if history says anything.
We were talking about we need an immersion patch, too, along with the 50-miler patch.
That's awesome.
Yeah, with that being said, though, I would definitely say recommend to anybody who's going to be doing it, check the weather forecast, and even if it says there's the slightest possibility, be prepared. Having a raincoat helps so much. Just keeping some of your stuff dry, and like Amelia was starting to say, it did end up getting kind of cold a little bit later, or I guess early morning at that point, after just being wet for 3-4 hours or so, and it started to get cold. So without long sleeves and stuff, it definitely would have been a little bit rougher than or without the raincoat. So I would recommend just check your weather forecast, and even if it's only a 20% chance and says it's scattered, count on the GORUCK gods to bring it full force.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know who GORUCK's paying off, but they definitely bring the weather.
They have weather manipulation equipment. I don't know.
Yeah, they gotta. So you two brought raincoats. Were there many other people who brought stuff for the rain? Did you see out there on the course?
So the group that got in first place, they passed us at one point. They didn't have any raincoats. They passed us right when we were putting on our raincoats, and they're like, "Guys, they're like the Boy Scouts, always prepared," because they had a change of clothes, but they didn't have any raincoats, but they still made it. So And then a couple other groups did have raincoats and some didn't, but yeah, I mean, it's whatever you can handle. Some people I think had to stop because of the rain got to them, but I didn't really talk to any of the groups after us about that as much.
Yeah, by the end of it, we only saw a couple groups before we ended up leaving, just because everybody's finishing at different points. So we didn't get to talk to everybody there about their experience throughout the night, but of the people that we did talk to, some of them had rain gear and some didn't. I didn't really hear any regrets of saying that I wish I had brought rain gear. I think I remember one person saying that they forgot theirs and were a little bit upset about it. Like Amelia said, there were some people who tried to wait out the rain.
Oh yeah.
But
there was a group after us that said they hid under like a tunnel or something and waited for like an hour or took a nap or something because of the rain. But we knew that we couldn't stop because we had the dog, and we just knew that once the sun comes out and the heat picks up, we weren't going to want to be out there as much.
Absolutely. There's always a chance that first place team finished so quick because they were running to get out of the rain.
Yeah, no, they were good though. We saw them stretching at most. They were like prepared, I think.
Yeah, no, those guys got after it because we were the second group where we were in second place from the start at the first waypoint, and they were behind us, and they overtook us at one point. I think they kept getting after it the whole time. Like Amelia said, we saw them stopping and stretching at some points, but they were out there ready to work hard, and I just don't think that they slowed up at all. Just kept going no matter what.
That's awesome. And so you mentioned that you saw a couple different teams throughout the night. Was this course laid out in a way that you would overlap paths with each other, or was it just kind of coincidence that you ended up running into other teams?
So it was like you started at like the south end of Millennium Park, and then they had you going 9 miles. The first two waypoints, they only gave you the first two waypoints to start. You started out going 9 miles up the Lakeshore Path to the end of the north side of the Lakeshore Path, and then you had to turn around and go all the way down 18 miles to the end of the south end of the Lakeshore Path. So at that point, you were going to you like passed by everyone that was coming. And then once you got there, the cadre, Mocha Mike, was giving you all the rest of the waypoints. And then from there, you had to like log which one you went to first. And so we saw everyone when we were turning around to go back down south. You would like pass everyone, and then when we got to the south end, we would like pass everyone again. And then throughout the night, or throughout like the next morning, we only came across maybe like 2 other teams, but it kind of just depended on how you like plotted out your points. There was one team they were in first from the start, like Team Canada. They were in first from like for the first like 27 miles, and then the first place team passed us all, and then we were going back and forth with them until 10 miles out, and then we hit probably our fourth wind at that point, and we didn't stop after that point, and we like not left them in our dust, but I think they were taking a little bit more breaks than us. And at that, we were just like, we need to finish because there's only 10 miles left. So we only really passed them like back and forth a few times.
Yeah, it was kind of set up to where, like Amelia was saying, you got the rest of the waypoints after, and it was up to you to plot out your route and how you're going to get there. So it was not set up to run into people, but we did a couple times. With that, also, I want to say that the cadre are not your friends. Don't listen to some of their advice. They had it set up to where they recommended going from the waypoint where we got, from the second waypoint where we got the rest of our objectives. they said to go back up and go see Cadre BD. But if you would have done that and listened to what they recommended, you would have been walking probably an extra 5 to 10 miles.
Yeah.
If you would have listened to them versus what the most logical way was to map out the waypoint. So they still threw in their trickery.
So definitely, like, when they give you the list, map it out and don't listen to what they say, because they're kind of I feel like they're trying to trick us a little bit.
Yeah, they're just trying to get you guys to get the most bang for your buck, get the most miles in as possible.
Yeah, they can't be there to torture you with PT, so they're going to play their psychological games and make you think that they're your friend, even though they were playing some trickery. So yeah, definitely take a couple minutes to plot it out and see what makes the most sense. Because with the last set of waypoints, there definitely was a strategic way that was pretty clear as to what the best route was, and most of the teams ended up doing it in the same order. It was pretty cut and dry what the best route was, so they didn't really leave much wiggle room in that. So they set it up to where if you did look at it, it was pretty clear what your route should be to make it the most effective way, instead of having to walk extra miles because you took a goofy route.
Because Mocha and Mike was like, oh, do you guys want to go straight up to BD, or are you going to do your own thing? And originally we were like, oh, we'll just go back up to Cadre BD and figure it out from there, because Joe was joking about just asking him what the most logical thing was. He's like, maybe he'll give us some hints. And then I just kind of we started walking back up there. I started plotting the points out on my phone just to see, because I knew most of them. It was like the Art Institute was one, like the Bean, obviously, like Navy Pier. So like some that I already knew where they were. But I started looking at them, plotting them in, and I realized that 3 of the waypoints were actually right down south where we were, and if we had gone up to Cadre BD, we would have passed all 3 of those, and I had to go backtrack. So I'm really glad that I ended up putting them in my phone before we passed them.
That's a great advice, because
yeah,
I mean, it's, your pace is kind of set out on what you're going to be rucking, and so really, it seems like the goal is to minimize the amount of backtracking and extra distance you have to do. So it really sounds like spending that extra 5 to 10 minutes to make sure you have the right path is well worth it in the end, because an extra 5, what'd you say, Joe, 5 to 10 miles of rucking, I mean, that's an extra 2.5 hours of work at least.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's what at the beginning, that was some of the advice the Cadre were giving was, take a look and plan out your route, because they were saying that some of the people in DC who were wearing fitness trackers and stuff, they finished and, it said the 55 or 60 miles that they walked and stuff like that. How could that be? And it was because of poor route planning. And there's definitely, like I said, it was very clear cut what the best route was from the waypoints. They did in such a way to where if you looked, there was a logical order to go in. So they weren't necessarily cruel in that aspect, but they were trying to play a little bit of trickery. So it's definitely worth it. The 10 minutes of just using your brain instead of the 2.5 extra hours to use your muscles, because especially at the end there, it hurts, and you'd be pretty upset if you had to walk another 5 to 10 miles.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, an extra 5 to 10 miles, that's an extra 10 to 20% of the event. I mean, there's a good chance that would prevent you from getting your patch even. So.
Yeah. I was so sad for the mile walk we had back to the car. I couldn't imagine having to do another 5.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, you already put in 50 plus. So everything after that is just even more painful. And you're not even earning a patch getting back to the car. I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. If we didn't have the dog, I totally would have gotten an Uber or something like that, or a taxi.
Yeah, I'm already planning on getting an Uber or a Lyft or something after the 50 in Seattle back to my car. Or we'll see. Maybe I'll just take it all the way home if my legs are too broken to drive. We'll see.
Yeah, no, You'll be
pretty tired too. So just consider trying to take an Uber or Lyft like there and back to your house if you're close enough and it's not too much money extra or whatever you want. Or taking a nap at the end or something.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's a good safety note. I felt fine after the event and stuff, and got in the car, and then within a little bit of started driving, it hit me real hard, and I actually had to pull over and have Amelia drive home. So definitely safety first, if you're feeling and stuff, just because that does start to get to some pretty serious stuff. It's not safe if you're nodding off and driving. So in all seriousness, definitely, if you're going to be by yourself or something like that, make sure that you can drive home or, take a nap or something like that, or make other arrangements. So I will step in and be, actually pretty serious about that, just because it's not worth your own life or somebody else's.
Absolutely. I mean, that can't be said enough times.
Yeah, about all the events, pretty much.
Yeah.
You don't get people driving, don't do it. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, not trying to make a joke or anything, but an Uber ride or a Lyft ride is, a lot cheaper and less terrible than a funeral.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, and that's not even. That's serious.
Yeah. If you're listening and you're gonna do the 50 miler, or even if you're doing a heavy or an HTL, or even a tough, because those run the whole night, and the cadre, depending on the cadre, can really beat you down in those, and you're not feeling like you're good to drive home, then just be smart. Leave your car, take a Lyft or an Uber, come back for it. It's way cheaper than a crashed car, dying, or anything else that can happen on the way. So
yeah, no, definitely. Very well said and very important stuff.
So for the Star Course, was there ever a time during the event when you're out there that you thought you might not finish within the time frame?
I was worried about Joe finishing, not the time frame. We were fine. We didn't actually stop much. We only stopped twice for 10 minutes. It was actually in the same hour. I guess we stopped at all the waypoints for maybe 5 minutes each, but besides that, we only stopped one 10-minute section, and when it got real sunny and hot, to let the dog take a little rest.
Let me take a rest too.
Yeah. And then another 10-minute section, maybe 20 minutes later, when it was just real hot. We got lucky at one point when we were going in front of Buckingham Fountain. We got a nice breeze that hit us from the lake, and that gave us both a good fifth wind at that point, because it was 30 miles in, or 35 miles in. So that was I think that breeze was a gift from God, because we both got more energy after that.
Yeah, no, we were fortunate enough. We got after it and kept after it, where we weren't worried about the time frame. We knew we were definitely going to finish, but it was definitely the
hurt.
The hurt, yeah. And I mean, we had come so far that we knew we weren't going to stop. So even if we had to, stop and take more breaks and stuff, we knew we were going to finish. But it was just mentally getting over that, fighting the demons in your head and stuff like that say, so much easier to stop and quit. But we didn't have to worry about the time frame. We ended up placing second, but that wasn't in our intention at all. Going into it, we weren't even worried about where we placed. We just wanted to finish. And so by the end, when we were going back and forth with Team Canada, and we knew that they were somewhere near the top. From there, we were kind of a little bit motivated, because we were like, oh, we might actually have a chance to place. That would be pretty cool. So at that point, we were kind of motivated to move a little bit quicker and finish. But the time frame wasn't that big of a deal for us, just because we knew we had it.
So second place,
yeah.
I did not even realize that. Congratulations, that's amazing. And I believe that you won a gift card because of that. Are they still doing the place awards?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We got a $200 gift card to GORUCK, so that was super cool. and unexpected. And I think it's something that's really nice that they are doing that, just because, I mean, it's ultimately everybody who finishes is working hard and stuff like that, but it's just a little bit of, I don't know, icing on the cake, so to speak, for the top finishers. So it's something cool, and it was definitely unexpected. Like I said, we weren't going into the night thinking, oh, let's go place or anything like that. We just wanted to finish, and, we were going to be proud enough with that. But it was just something that was a nice little reward, I guess, for all the hard work.
Very cool. So what was your team name for the event?
We were team
It was WWG1 WGA, which stands for Where We Go One, We Go All.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that teams were allowed to name themselves. So I thought that was pretty cool when I saw BD post the list of all the team names.
Yes. Yeah, it was awesome. It was pretty.
I think it's cool. It's something to where it's the event is unique compared to some of the other GORUCK events. It's kind of fun to be able to pick your teammates and stuff like that. I believe it's up to 5 per team, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of cool to be able to pick your teammates and stuff like that, and pick a good group and name your team and stuff, and have a little bit of individual team pride.
Yeah, have some fun with it, because you've got 50 miles ahead of you.
And also it's cool because you definitely want someone out there, like unlike some of the GORUCK events where you have like different people, some people that haven't done them before, and some people come out and don't know what to expect, and they start maybe whining or complaining. And you don't want someone out there with you that's gonna start whining, complaining like 40 miles in. You want someone that's gonna be like there for you and motivating instead of like complaining. So it's good to find good people and be able to choose the right people for you.
Yeah, the cadre were joking at the beginning of the event, trying to say focus on building each other up instead of tearing each other down. They said that there were essentially some broken teams, we'll call it, at the DC one, where people, got upset and were, tearing each other down over, what route to take, or, whatever it may be. It's a long night. There's a lot of going on. It's also a pretty emotional event, just because you're working so hard, get so sleep deprived and stuff like that. So yeah, like Amelia said, you definitely want to have people that are there, going to have your back, and when you're at your low point, are going to bring you back up, and just know that the person's got your back, or that your teammates have your back, because we definitely went back and forth where we had our low points as individuals, and luckily it was kind of at opposite times of each other. So when we were, down in the dumps, the other person was there to pick you up and keep you motivated, keep you going, instead of, trying to say, oh, let's go, stuff like that. It's being understanding and working as a team, which is no different than any GORUCK event, but just know who you're signing up with and stuff like that. I could definitely see where that would be very detrimental and would make the event that much worse, which it's already rough enough. So you don't want to add another obstacle by having a sour apple or something like that in your bunch.
Absolutely. It really seems like team selection is crucial in determining, success, because you're going to be with them for a long time. And just like you said, unlike a typical GORUCK event where you are in a team, there's a lot more people there. So if there is a bad apple, you can talk to and be motivated by other people. But, in this group, for you guys are kind of lucky because you just had the two of you and the dog, and you knew each other obviously very well because you're married.
Yeah. Also, real briefly, before I turn it over to Amelia to let her thoughts, it's also a really good chance to bond with whoever you're doing it. Our case is a couple or friends or whatever. So also just know that you can become that much stronger with the people you're with.
And they changed it from the DC to the Chicago. I think probably because Emily couldn't get her patch because she had to finish solo. But they are now allowing, and I'm guessing they're going to do it going forward, they're allowing you to finish on your own if you can do it. So you don't need they want you to sign up as a team, but if everyone in your team drops out, you can still finish solo or join another team. So a couple of people at the Chicago ended up doing that because their teammates had to drop. And another rule that they changed for this one was you can, if you're under 150 pounds, you can do 10 pounds, and if you're over 150, you have to do 20. So that was kind of interesting. We both ended up doing, I did 20 pounds and he did 30, so we had around 25 to 35 pounds in each of our, like, our sacks. But it would have been easier with 10.
Yeah, I recommend carrying the weights that it allowed you. The only reason that I carried 30 is just because that's the ruck plate I have. That's what I train with. That's what I do my events with. So I just kind of figured it was my game time weight. But in hindsight, having 20 pounds would have been pretty cool over having 30 pounds.
That same for me. I always used 20 pounds, but it definitely would have been easier with 10.
Yeah, I can imagine. And those are pretty big changes to the Star Course since that first event.
Yeah, I think they wanted to do it more like it's a lot of miles, so the weight thing kind of makes sense. And then it just stinks if all your teammates drop out, because I know there was another guy I was talking to in our Milwaukee event, and he knew a guy who didn't originally plan on signing up, but like signed up for the Star Course like a week before because 4 of his buddies were like, "Oh, come on, do it." And then they all ended up dropping out within like the last 9 miles. And he like could have kept going, but at that point he couldn't finish because his whole team dropped out. So that just stinks. So I completely understand why they are allowing people to finish now, because once you're done with like 45 miles and your team isn't like, you can't do it anymore, that just stinks.
Yeah, no, I think that's, yeah, super cool for GORUCK to make that change, just because, I mean, at the end of the day, if you can make it, you're finishing your objective, and you definitely earned that patch. So I think it's cool that they made that change and allowed people to finish solo.
I completely agree. I mean, if you've gone that distance and your team bails on you, I think that's really smart of them. And it's really cool how quickly they made the change. I think that, just shows what kind of a company they are, that they're able to make those kind of changes fast instead of, waiting it out for a year or two like a larger organization might have. But I'm excited.
Yep, I think that shows their adaptiveness and the willingness to listen to feedback from the community, and aren't afraid to make changes and be wrong, and admit that and make adjustments accordingly. So once again, just another reason why they're such a great company.
As much as we just kind of, not like shit talk to them, but as much as we said they like tricked us, the cadre were awesome. Like Cadre BD, Cadre Mickey, and Cadre Mocha Mike, and all the volunteers. There were a bunch of people that came out. They had the first like 27 to 30 miles. They had a few stations with water and fruit and other snacks, and it was really nice. They were all great, and at the end they had sandwiches and like beer and everything. And much as they tried to trick us maybe a little bit, they're phenomenal guys and girls that showed up to help out with everyone there. And we both really appreciate all the extra motivation and seeing some smiling faces throughout the course. So we really love them, even if they tried to trick us.
That's awesome. And yeah, the cadre are a phenomenal staff, and kind of said it better.
It's real hard after every event. You're always like, oh, who's the best one? But they all have so much to offer and all bring such a unique perspective to the table. And it's just great company run by great guys. Can't ask for anything else.
Absolutely. So if given the chance, if they bring Star Course back again in 2019 and they're coming to Chicago, would the two of you do the event again?
So we both talked about it during the event, and we're like, we're never doing this ever again in our lives. Since then, it might have changed a little bit. I don't know if I'd want to do another one in Chicago. I might want to do one in another city just to experience another city and change it up a little bit. But I'd probably do another event another 50-miler at this point. Do less weight though, but go to another city just so it's not like the same thing. Not that they do the same weight points, but just to experience something new.
Yeah, that's a really funny question just because, like Amelia said afterwards, we were like, no, never again. And I actually don't know that we've talked about it since then, whether we would do one or not. But I definitely would do one. I think Amelia brings up a good point. I don't know that I would do it in Chicago just because it'd be cool to do it somewhere else and experience a different city. Just because at this point I've already proved to myself that I can do it. So it's no longer about that. It would just be kind of for the experience. I would definitely do less weight. And kind of have the same thing. I wouldn't even be worried about trying to go faster or anything like that. It's just a good time. I'd probably change up my approach just because we had the dog and stuff. Our game plan was to get after it and try and get done as quick as possible. But if I were to do it again, just because I've done one and know what to expect, I might take a couple more breaks and just kind of go at it more for fun, if that's even possible, while walking 50 miles. But yeah, no, I would definitely do it again.
That's awesome. And that's the typical GORUCK train of thought right there, I feel like, is you do the event and it's the first time you've done that one. You say never again. That's what I said during my first challenge. I said, never again. I'm never doing another GORUCK event back in 2011. And I had a buddy I was supposed to do the event with, and he ended up not showing up. And so I was at his house and he said, so I couldn't make the event, but maybe I'll make the next one in town. I said, don't even worry about it because I'm never doing this again. And then, a couple days later, I'm like, when are they coming back? When is GORUCK coming back? I want to do another one. And it's funny how that works.
Yep, no, it's so true. It's such a unique experience that you can't get anywhere else, just from the amount of physical suffering, the people you're with, and just the whole experience. You can't find it anywhere else, and I think that's what keeps you coming back.
Absolutely. And one of the nice things about the 50-miler patch is that it's got the city skyline on it. So if you do it in another city, you'll get a different patch.
Yeah, definitely. One recommendation, I'll put it out here for maybe other people in GORUCK HQ will hear about it. I did let them know it'd be cool for the top finishers. There's the star on it. If they did different color stars for first, second, and third place, that'd be a really cool change if they made that.
I know they do that for like the scavenger. They do the different colored patches for the first, second, and third place. So they wouldn't have. They have like a little star. It would be cool to just have like maybe gold, silver, and bronze star, and then everyone else gets like the regular red star.
That would be awesome. I like that idea.
Yeah. So he emailed the HQ about that, and they're like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. So we'll see. It'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah. It would. I think it would add an extra level of competitiveness to it as well, because, I mean, gift cards are cool and all, but an exclusive patch.
Everybody wants that patch.
Yeah, right. I can tell you, I've never seen some people as competitive in my entire life as I have at scavengers trying to get that gold patch. I mean, you would think their job was on the line or something.
We haven't actually done one yet. That's like one of the only. Yeah, actually, it's not one of the only events. We haven't done a couple of events, but we're interested in seeing what that's about. I know I've seen pictures on Instagram of some of the teams, and it does seem like a lot of people go hard after that scavenger.
Yeah, it's really funny to hear you say that. I can only imagine, and it makes perfect sense. I have no trouble believing that whatsoever.
Yeah, I usually find myself on the more relaxed teams that just want to have a good time, but there are definitely teams of people out there who that's their goal is to win, and that's always really fun to see as well.
Yeah, well, with talking about that in the Star Course, I would definitely, I would recommend, I mean, unless you know that you're physically capable to be that competitive, I wouldn't recommend that that's your mindset, because if you're not physically there, you'll burn yourself out pretty quick. But at the same time, I would recommend just kind of getting after it and get as much done as you can in the beginning when you're feeling fresh, because it only gets worse from there. There's no preventing the fact that you're going to hurt and stuff like that. So I would kind of recommend just getting after it as much as you can in the beginning, and that's not even in a trying to be on top type of way. We happen to be in second from the start and finish second. But like I was saying before, that was not at all our intentions. It just kind of coincidentally happened. Our game plan was just get after it because we had our dog with us and to avoid the heat. But with that being said, I would recommend, I think that strategy worked out pretty good, is to just try and go as quick as you can in the beginning within your physical comfort zone, and get after it, because it only is downhill from there. You can't really pick up that pace later on. So while you're fresh, take advantage of it.
That's awesome advice. And that's definitely something that I'm gonna try and take to heart at my Seattle one. And I think you hit another really, really great point in there as well about trying to place. I mean, this event seems like such a mental event. And if you go into it thinking that you're going to get first, second, or third and win some GORUCK gift cards, and it turns out that you're in 5th or 6th or 10th place, I mean, that's just another thing that's going to be a mental disadvantage against you. Like, not only are the miles beating you down, but then you're going to start beating yourself down for not doing as well as you thought to. So,
yeah, no, that's great advice, and we can actually speak to that from our experience. Just because when out of the gate we were in second place, it kind of got in our heads a little bit. We were like, oh man, do we actually have a chance to place? And we were kind of thinking about that. And then later on in the night, we saw a couple teams walking around at the different waypoints or whatever, and we were just like, at this point, let's not even worry about that. Let's just worry about finishing. That's what we came here to do. But yeah, no, that could definitely mess with you mentally if that's your intentions, and then you see other people going past you, and I mean, yeah, it'll just compound the exhaustion and stuff, and that's just one more obstacle you have to face. So I would definitely say that is great advice and a very good point.
And then they private messaged me when we were about a mile and a half out, saying that we were looking good for second. And I think that really, especially for me, motivated us to go a little faster. We stopped at the Art Institute, which was our last waypoint before the finish. And Joe wanted to take a second longer to sit there, and I was like, I just don't have a good feeling about this. Let's just go because we're in second, or we're looking good for second, and I just want to get there. It's only a mile at that point, and I was like, let's just go. The third place team was actually just 1 minute behind us, and we didn't even know that. So if we had waited another minute longer, we could have been in second, which isn't a big deal, but it was just, it definitely, I think them private messaging us and like telling us to dig deep, like really got me going.
Yeah,
so that was a good mental motivation.
Yeah, my wife is definitely the only reason we finished second place, and like I said, it's not even about placing, but it was a very pleasant surprise after putting all that work in, and just knowing how hard that we worked. It was just awesome to know that was kind of, that hard work that's what it got us with second place. So it was definitely not the goal, but it was super cool to see that was the results of our hard work.
That's amazing. And that is wild that there was only a minute difference between second and third for an event that's 50 miles long and has a 20-hour cutoff. 1 minute difference. That is not much at all.
Oh yeah, and we had no idea, because the team that we thought was in third place, they're according to like their Instagram check-ins, they were considerably behind us. But there was a team the team that actually finished third place, we didn't know they were right behind us even. So I mean, it was that much crazier that we got in, finished, and then we see them walk in right behind us. It was kind of wild and unexpected.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything else that you two want to talk about related to the GORUCK Star Course in Chicago?
Electrolyte tablets, like every other event, definitely help. That's all I have to say. I think those got me going well. I can't really think of anything else.
Yeah, no, I think we did a pretty good job covering it. I guess in review, I would just say the biggest thing, or just like a quick summary of bullet points, would be make sure you have a good team, make sure you have your equipment squared away, and be ready to work hard.
And plan.
plan.
Make sure you plan.
Have a game plan. It definitely helps. It's a long way, and so and you know your objective up front. So just to kind of have a game plan and know what you're going to do and be on the same page with your team, that's definitely helpful. But yeah, no. Other than that, I think we've done a really good job of covering it. And there's, like anything too, you can only do so much pre-planning. At some point, you just have to show up and do it.
Absolutely. And I think you guys did an absolutely phenomenal job going through everything. I mean, this has been an amazing call. Thank you.
Don't be afraid to cry in front of your teammates, because the last 10 miles, I will just say we both got pretty emotional.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I don't know if it's because we were husband and wife, but it was definitely a super spiritual event. There's a lot of hard work and stuff. And yeah, no, it's a good time. I highly recommend everybody goes out and do it. It's completely different than a normal GORUCK event. You know your task at hand, but just get out there, do it, and I have no doubt that anyone else can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Thank you so much for listening to the All Day Ruckoff podcast. This has been episode number 56. And if you want to check out the show notes, which includes all the information that we talked about during the event, you can head on over to alldayruckoff.com/podcast/episode-056. We've got all the links there. A huge thank you to Joe and Amelia for coming on and doing this interview. I had a great time talking to both of them. They definitely had a unique event experience, and it really does seem like GORUCK is bringing the bad weather to every star course that they put on. So if you've got an upcoming star course, be prepared. Don't forget, GORUCK's Christmas in July sale is going on right now. There's 40% off a lot of the events, so head on over to their website, acrt.us/GORUCK, and check out what's coming up in your area. If you enjoyed the podcast episode, we would love if you would leave a review on either iTunes or on our Facebook page. Both of those are truly appreciated. If you have ideas for an upcoming show or just want to reach out, as always, you can send an email directly to me, Brian, spelled BRIAN, at alldayruckoff.com, and I will definitely get back to you. Thank you so much for all of the incredible support. And don't forget, attitude is everything. Keep yours positive and drink hard, ruck harder.